Welcome back. In this lesson, we'll look at success and error notifications. We'll start out by creating a notification module, then write some code to add and remove a notification to our module state. Then finally, we'll figure out how to display those notifications within our example application. There are a few places in our application where errors might occur. Right now, we're just console logging those, but we should be displaying those to our user. That's the problem we'll solve in this lesson. If we take a look at our event module, we see we're making this API call, and if it fails, we are catching the error and console logging it. In our fetch event action, we're doing the same thing. When this API call fails, we're catching the error and also console logging it. But this isn't very helpful to our users who should know when an error has occurred. So let's create a notification module to collect those errors. We'll go into our modules directory and create a new file. Call it notification.js. Then we can start building out this module. We'll export const namespaced equals true to namespace the module. Then export const state. Inside here, we'll add a notifications array. And we want the ability to add and remove to that notifications state. So we'll create mutations to do that. The push mutation will take in the state and the notification, which we will push onto our notification state, and we're using object destructuring here so that when we push a new notification, we can add an ID to it. So if we create a variable here, we'll call it letNextID and initialize it. And then on the property here, we'll say nextID++. This will make sure each new notification has a unique ID. Now we also want to be able to delete a notification, so we'll pass in the state and the notification to remove. Inside of here, we're essentially creating a new notifications array by filtering out the notification that we want to remove. And we'll use the ID to specify which notification to remove. Now we'll create some dedicated actions for these mutations. So we'll export const actions. The add action will take commit from the context object and receive notification as a payload. And this will commit the push mutation, sending in that payload. The remove action also takes in commit and the notification to remove. And it commits the delete mutation, handing it the notification to remove. You might notice these actions aren't called add notification or remove notification. That's because we are in a namespace module. So whenever we call these actions, we're referring to the module name, calling notification and then the action name. Now we'll just head over to our root state in store.js, and we'll import this module, importing everything we just exported from the notification.js file, and we'll list it as a module below. Now let's use this module, adding notifications to it from where we were console logging those errors before. We'll open up the event module, and we'll delete out this console log. And instead, we're going to create a new constant called notification. And this will be an object which has a type, in this case error, and a message. Since this is in our fetch events action, we'll say there was a problem fetching events. Then we'll print out error.message from the error that was caught. Now we just need to add in dispatch here, which allows us to dispatch the add action from our notification module, passing in the notification object that we just created as the payload. And then we'll pass in root true. Now, this is important. We covered it in our last lesson. This allows the dispatcher to go to the root state, find the notification module, and run the add action. Now we'll go down to our fetch event action, add in the dispatch here, and in the catch, we will paste in the same error code. Since we're only fetching one event, we'll change this to there was a problem fetching event, and the rest of the code remains the same. Now let's head into the browser and see if these notifications are being caught. As you can see, our JSON server is not running, which is what we want. because we want to see the fetch events action fail. And when it does, we collect this error. There was a problem fetching events. Perfect. Before we start displaying these notifications within our UI, there's one more place in our event module where we need to capture success and error notifications. See here we have our create event action, which posts the new event to our Mac database. And if that happens successfully, we want to create a success notification, so we'll change out the type to success. And for the message, we'll say, your event has been created. Of course, we'll have to add dispatch here, and the rest of the code remains the same. But we'll want to catch an error here as well. We'll just paste this same code here, and change out the message to there was a problem creating your event. And we'll say throw error here, sending in the error we just caught, because we need to propagate it up to our component. If we head over to event create, you can see that different behavior happens whether an error occurred or not. As you can see here, when we successfully create an event, we're routing to the event show for that event, and then clearing the form. However, if an error occurs, we don't want that to happen. We want to stay on this page so the user can resubmit the form. So we'll delete the console log here because it's no longer necessary. And now we won't push to a new route or clear out the form if the error was caught. Now taking a look in the browser, if I submit this form a couple times, you can see I'm collecting these errors because our JSON server is off and we can't post to our mock database. However, if we turn the JSON server back on, let's see what happens. We'll create a test event with the title of success. And when we submit, looks like we're routing correctly, which means we should have a success notification, which we do. Awesome. Now let's create some components to display these notifications. In our components directory, we'll create a new file and call it notificationbar.view. This is a component that will display the notification itself. We will also create notificationcontainer.view. This will create a notification bar for every notification in our state. So let's start fleshing out notificationbar.view. It'll have a prop of notification, which will be an object, and we'll make it required. Now in the template, we'll print out the message that lives on that notification prop. Then we'll add some scoped styles with the class of notification-bar and paste the style here. Now we want an error notification to look different from a success notification. So we'll create a computed property, call it notification type class. This will return a string, and we'll use some interpolation here using the type from our notification prop. So depending on the type, this will evaluate to text error or text success. We'll bind that computed property to our class. Now our error notification will be styled red, and our success notification will be black. These are both global styles. Now let's start building out our notification container. We'll add some scope styles with a class of notification container, paste in the styles here. Then we need to import notification bar and register it as a child component. Now we can use it in our template. And we want to create a new notification bar for every notification that lives in our state. So we can import map state from Vuex. And we'll create a computed property where we use map state to map to our notification module and specifically to the notification state that lives on it. Now we can use v4. We'll say notification in notifications, referring to the state that we are mapped to below. For the key, we'll use our notification ID. And then for our notification prop, we'll send in the entire notification object so that notification bar can use it. Now, since we want our notifications to be on the app level, we'll go into app.view and import the notification container component and register it as a child component here. Then place it in the template. Now, wherever we are in our application, we'll be able to see these notifications displayed. Let's test this out. We'll create an event, hit submit, and here it is. We have our success notification being displayed. Now let's turn off the JSON server to make sure that our error notifications will also display. I'll just hit the submit button multiple times, and each time we're getting a new error notification. Now that we're collecting all of these notifications, let's figure out how we can remove them. As a refresher, in our notification module, we have the delete mutation, which takes in as a payload the notification to remove, which it receives from the remove action. So we might have multiple notification or notification bar components. So the question is, when do we want to remove a notification? One way to achieve that is to use a timer. And when it's up, we could remove the notification. Since the remove action is what removes the notification, we will import map actions from Vuex, and then in our methods, we will use map actions to map to the notification module and the remove action. We'll need somewhere to store our timer, so we'll create a data property for our timeout. And then, when this component mounts, we want to start that timer. So we'll say this.timeout equals and use the JavaScript setTimeout method, and that will run the remove action, sending in the notification to remove, in this case our notification prop, and it will call the action 5 seconds after the component is mounted. Now this will work just fine, but for housekeeping, we'll add before destroy, which is a lifecycle hook, and use the JavaScript method clearTimeout to clear out our timeout data. This future-proofs this component. If down the line we added a close button to manually close this component could be closed while the set timeout was still running, potentially creating a memory leak. We don't want that. So we'll make sure to clear out the timeout whenever this component is removed from the DOM. Now let's head to the browser and see these notifications being displayed. We see there's a problem fetching events, awesome. And it self-deletes. We go to our create view and hit submit a bunch of times. We're seeing new error notifications, and those too are self-deleting. Let's review. In this lesson, we created a new notifications module, then wrote the code to add and remove notifications from its state. Then we learned how to display those notifications within our UI. After the siren. Error, error.
Error, yeah, there's a notification.